Hello, welcome to this conference for small hosts. We'll be talking about Airbnb, Booking.com, and Verbo. For the moment, I will let you all come in. So my name is Thibault. I'm the head of Rental Scale Up. I'm happy to welcome you here. I will be introducing to you our three speakers of the day. So without further ado, we're going to get started. I've got 4 slides. I promise that's it, just 4 slides, just to make sure I introduce our speakers properly. Let me share my screen right now. So today I'm very lucky to be here as part of Rental Scale Up with the 3 companies, Boostly, Hospitable, and Future Stay. And we're going to be talking about how you, small host, can dominate Airbnb, Booking.com, and Verbo in 2024. That's pretty ambitious, but I think we can give you pretty good actionable tips today. As I said, I'm Thibault. I'm the founder of Rental Scale Up. It's a media that talks about the short-term rental industry. I also happen to be working at Price Labs, which is a dynamic pricing tool. We have a free newsletter. Feel free to join. That's it. That was my plug. That's it. So today, we'll be answering 4 big questions, right? We'll be talking about why do you even imagine you're just an Airbnb host. You are an Airbnb host. Why do you even need to be on other platforms? We'll be talking about the need for you to understand what each of these platforms is about before you want to master them. We'll be talking about tips that work on each and every platform. And then each of the speakers will be giving their own actionable tips for Airbnb, Booking.com, and then Verbo. So I really want to make sure we get value. And to give you value, I have 3 great people here. We have Mark from Boostly, Pierre, Camille, PC from Hospitable, and Phil from Future Stay. There we go. Mark, do you want to get started?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for including me in this discussion. I'm excited to dig into everything today. So my name is Max Simpson, founder of Boostly, and we give hosts the tools, the tactics, the training, but most importantly, the confidence to increase their direct bookings. And yeah, we've been doing this for 7 years now. We've just passed 50 million pounds worth of tracked direct bookings on our websites in 2023, which is epic. And about 10,000 listings are going through Boostly right now, and about 2,500 customers. So yeah, really, really happy to be part of it. Thank you again for having us.
Hello, thank you very much for inviting me, Thibault, and fantastic to be with you, Phil and Mark. So I'm Pierre Camille, PC. I'm based in Brussels, in Belgium, where it's already dark outside. So good morning to everyone based in the US. I'm the founder and CEO of Hospitable. It's been about the same time as Boostly to be up, so about 7 years. And we're really catering to the small hosts, but small hosts unite is really the theme of it. So small hosts, fewer than 2 properties, represent 70% of the vacation rental, short-term rental market. And we're here to help them, in particular, first by automating and professionalizing their guest experience, then later their operations, especially as they professionalize to adding more channels. And we're going to talk about that at length. Mark had a big flashy number. I have to do the same, otherwise my marketing department is going to be upset. So Hospitable represents about $180 million in payout every month. It's a customer's payout. So that represents a big number when the small hosts indeed unite together.
Thanks, everyone. I'm excited to get to know all the guests here better. And I'm big fans of Mark and Pierre. Really appreciate joining everyone today. I'm Phil, the founder of Future Stay. Future Stay is an ultimate tool for helping rentalpreneurs, so people like me that have just a handful of properties, make more money with less effort. A lot of people think about return on investment. That's how businesses think about where they're expending their resources. I think about return on effort. I'm not a full-time rentalpreneur. Most of my time is spent running and growing Future Stay, and we've been around for like Boostly and Hospitable, the better part of a decade. We've grown to serve over 100,000 rentalpreneurs around the world, and excited to share some of the tools, the tips, the tactics that we've learned and help everyone dominate the OTAs today.
What's your view on this? What's your view on necessity on should I be on multiple platforms? What point do I get started with multiple platforms? Phil, do you want to get started with this?
Yeah, 100%. So The way I think about it is, as a rentalpreneur, as someone who is not doing this full time, but instead I look at my short-term rentals or long-term rentals as an opportunity to build some additional wealth, and maybe leave a nest egg for the next generation, and have a couple places to go to when I want. I look at it as, how much effort do I want to put in, and what am I willing to get? What am I willing to put in order to get more? So for me personally, I tend to focus on one channel, on one OTA. And that OTA can be very different depending on where your properties are. We'll talk more about that later on. And the reason why is because you can think of bookings. It doesn't matter what channel they're coming from. They can be from Airbnb, Booking.com, Verbo, or direct bookings. You can think of your booking flow like a machine, right? Guests come in the top, they discover you, they go through the middle, they may click on your listing, and then they have to come out the other side and do the booking. If your flow isn't working well on one channel, why do you think adding 2 or 3 more channels to that is going to make you more money? You have to optimize it for where you're currently already working and get it the best possible. And only then will your return on effort be adding more channels, right? You got to get what you're doing working correctly before adding more channels. That's the way that I look at it.
PC, what's your view on that?
Yeah, I was ready to disagree with Phil for some reason, but actually I can only +1 whatever he said. No, it's absolutely right. I don't think we see a lot of starting hosts among customer base that are just starting to get a trial. And I think it's over-optimizing too early. You need to learn the ropes of at least one channel to be able to understand with the environment and especially nail the parts. Are you doing a good job marketing your listings? Are you doing a good job pricing it? Are you doing a good job of operationalizing the different parts about it? There will be a time for you to automate and really make that significantly more efficient. But first, you need to do the things that don't scale, and you need to really understand every part of your little business to then see it grow. But once you're there, I think there is an important part, is that you are on a path of professionalizing. If you consider yourself as a real estate investor, you want to extract, good word, capital, but we're all capitalists here. We want to extract the most revenue, the more bang for your buck, and from your property or your properties. And you're gonna have to distribute to another channel eventually. Why not now? Once you have something that's already running, is a good time to start distributing elsewhere. And you have actually an incentive as a platform to do it earlier rather than later, because the supply is going to increase over time. It's going to become more competitive. There is a path to commoditization of the OTA. So that means a little difference that can be on opportunities for the smart operators today are going to disappear and be blended in a mashed potato that's going to be impossible to differentiate. And that's the time when you have an opportunity to be present and then see how it works. The other thing I want to say is that on the other side, and we're going to talk about it, OTAs are not easy business in their own right, and their products are changing sometimes the host experience side very quickly. And the winter update from Airbnb is showing that again and again. There are going to be more features, more development happening on the OTA to try and keep you captive. The problem of that is that at one point, it may become most helpful to go on any PMS, on a PMS that basically is relating with you, to set this once and for all across all the channels that you're having, rather than basically doing it multiple times over on each different OTA, and then making a list of what's the feature gaps of some and the opportunities of another. But it makes sense to a point that more platforms bring more complexity. But because of the complexity that currently happens on any booking channel right now, it started making more sense to basically have this no man's land between all the channels to try and really have a streamlined streamlined experience and operational efficiency.
So picking at one main channel, streamlining the experience first. That's your view. Yeah. So Mark, so what's your view again? Why should I even be on several channels?
So I think the question, the way that I would answer it, and again, I asked the question just now as Pierre was talking in the chat, how long have you had or been open as a business? How long have you had the business for? Because it's not a case of how many properties do you have, it's a case of how long have you been running for? And, there's people in here saying 2 months, some people saying a year, and the majority of people in the group only have one property. So if you're just getting started, you've got so many plates to spin. So the chap, Daniel, 2 months, you've literally got so many plates to spin as you start up any business. So you've got to, got to get the property ready, got to get it open, got to get your staff, got to make sure everything's running smoothly. If you're doing it all yourself, you've got even more things to worry about. And we're very fortunate in this industry of short-term rentals, hospitality, that there are free websites that you can go and place your business on and be pretty much guaranteed revenue, depending on obviously location, your niche, and etc. And with that being said, let's just call it what it is, Airbnb. That's where majority of people will go because they'll have done the research and gone, right, that's the one to go on. Or they've just seen a YouTube video and seen a guru talking on it and gone, you know what, I'm going to put it on there, right? And if you're just getting started by placing just on the one website, Airbnb makes a ton of sense because, again, you've got so many things to box off. You've got so many things to get right. But if you've been doing this, again, I can see Nicole 2 years, I can see David 5 years, Ashley 2 years. So if you've been doing it for a few years now, and you're a couple of years in, so you've had 2 seasons under your belt, you've had 2 years of dealing with guests and all that good stuff, then that is when you need to start to diversify your marketing strategy. That is where you've got Airbnb and you've got this other thing that people keep talking about, which is Verbo, and you've got this thing that everybody hates, but they have to go on there for now and again. It's booking.com, right? For so many reasons. So at that point, it makes so much sense after a year or 2 years, and you go to diverse your marketing strategy by getting on those platforms, which I think is a must, because the more places that you can be seen, then at the end of the day, there's more traffic that could be potentially be driving into your business and your property. So it's not so much how many properties you have, it's a case of how long have you been in this game for?
Yeah, I'd like to dovetail on that. That's a really important point. And I think to kind of close the loop there, I'll touch on the point right in between, right? It takes a significant amount of time and effort, almost like a flywheel effect, to build traction on a new OTA. It's not like once you've mastered Airbnb, maybe that's your first channel, you can now go put a listing on Verbo and booking.com and be a success story overnight there. It takes work and it takes dedication, and you have to learn the algorithm because they all work a little bit differently. And you also have to build up the traction, and we'll talk about the specific tactics in each. So there is a little bit of a balance game you're playing. I want to remind everyone here something, which is that the scary side of the industry, 40% of Airbnb listings that go live and get at least one booking in their first year close by the end of that year. They take the listing down by the end of that year. There's a 40% churn rate is what that's called in software, right? That's a tremendous amount of people that actively take a booking and then say, no, this isn't for me. And the number one reason that people in the exit interview, when they say, I don't, why did you get rid of your Airbnb listing? It's not that I didn't have enough bookings. It's that it was too hard or complex. And so when I think about, how do you maximize your chances for success as a rentalpreneur? It's take it in bite-sized pieces, depending on how experienced you are, like Mark said, and also plotting ahead in terms of what you're going to be able to need to do in the next year, 2 years, 3 years to be successful, like PC says, right? It's a mix of all of those things. You're learning how to thread that needle in real time.
I really love this, and that's transition to my next question, right? As you said, I worked for booking.com at the headquarters in tech and strategy for 5 years, and Bill said, flywheel, booking.com will, if you ever work at booking.com, if you want to get a job there, say the word flywheel. They're all about flywheels, but it's true, right? Because some stuff, it's like a video game. It's gamification. Some stuff kick in, right? You need 3 reviews to get a rating score. And once you have a rating score, you show up. People filter out maybe looking for places that have a review score above some threshold. If you don't even have a review score, you can't even compete. You're not even playing, right? So all this build up, and as we said, at some point, if you want to get started, maybe you have to focus, be successful on one. But I just talked about how it is at booking.com, but maybe can you, each of you, tell us about why is it important to even understand how, Booking.com works and think, how their teams think, or Airbnb think, or Verbo, how they think, or how they think that they're part of Expedia. Why is it even important for me before I even start want to dominate them? I know that, as you people always quote the art of war, that you have to know your enemy first before even entering the battle. So I'm not going to say they are enemy, because that's pushing a bit too far to my taste metaphor. But why is it important to even understand that these platforms are not the same? Mark, you can get started on this.
Yeah, and I won't keep for long because I know Pierre's got a fantastic answer on this, but you've got to, just like any social media. So you've got Facebook, you've got X, you've got LinkedIn, you've got Instagram. When you post on different channels, you've got to craft your posts to the different audiences, because different people will use those channels, and that's not even including TikTok, right? So you've got a different method and a different way of posting on each of them. And it's the same with our online travel agents, the OTAs. So you've got the Booking Holidays group, which is obviously booking.com. You've got the Expedia group, which is Verbo, and you've got Airbnb. And different channels give you different ways to communicate your business on each, right? And this is why it's important that you do a little bit of research beforehand. One of the most simplest things that you can do if you want to just sort of go, okay, well, which one's the best for me? Go onto each platform, do it on a computer, go into private mode, so incognito mode, so it's not one that's tracked all of your data beforehand, and just go click around in where your location is. So wherever your city, wherever your location is, wherever your destination is, go have a look at how different properties rank on each one. What have they got? How many pictures and all those things? It's a real good way of trying to understand from a front end point of view how each system works. And this is before you even create your account to go and dig in onto the back end. But it is really important to know that you just can't spray and pray. You can't just go and sign up for a property management software tool, connect up Airbnb, connect up Verbo, connect up booking.com, push all your data and just sit back and go, sound, I'm going to get bookings on the back of this. You've got to be able to tweak and test each one, which is obviously what we're going to talk about and test about today.
Tweak, test everything. PC, what's your view on it?
Yeah, I've been taking my corporate historian kind of hat on this one, but that's the bit that I like to talk about, because indeed Booking.com, Verbo, and Airbnb are so completely different. And there's a part of that that's really coming from the history. When Booking.com was launched, it was a time of Windows 95. So it's absolutely not something that's relevant for the young travelers or digital nomads of today. It's really, for me, far more in the advertising or performance marketing business, and it really goes with the money flows. As they started with the hotels, the point was really advertising established players that already had the ability to process payments and obviously already had staff. They expanded short-term rentals 5, 6, 7 years ago, but it's still relatively new and still a fight internally to get it to work. What it means that there was also not a particular focus on the host experience, because the users of Booking.com at the time would have been marketing teams, paid by hotels, would have been professional users of another software that actually would be integrating with Booking.com in any case. So there was not a lot of investments into the user experience for hosts, at least to do that. But there are some fantastic benefits to Booking.com, and it's a far more international brand in that actually it's probably based on weaknesses. They are still trying really hard to enter the US market and get a significant market share. In Europe, in Asia Pacific, it's really a very big brand and a very large group of companies. So if you are exposing yourself to a lot more international travelers wherever you're based, I would really recommend that you get listed to Booking.com. But there are also a lot of drawbacks, and we talk about that. Verbo is not a company. It was a brand, basically built on with an amalgamation of different vacation rental websites, but that was really the core focus. As much as Booking.com is for hotel, Verbo is for vacation rentals by owners, supposedly, but they became an OTA. They still have this bit of an anomaly in their names. They are focused on entire homes, where everyone else is really open to everything. They really are focused on entire homes, and means really the best properties for the best guests, with the best staff, with the best company. There is, however, a big problem that I see for Verbo is compared with Airbnb and Booking.com, which are basically in the 100 billion range of valuation, they are at 19 billion. And it's been really difficult for them in the past few years to really position themselves and grow out of probably a more declining inventory, is really chasing more Airbnb than the other part. But they have a demographic that's very loyal to the brand. Airbnb has a different strategy to acquire the guests and retain their guests. It's loyalty to the system, more like the reviews that you see and are really going to be giving you a lot of information about the listings that you're shopping around. There is loyalty to the brand, but that's really driven by economics. It's cheaper. There are a lot of things we're going to talk about also in the next few minutes. But at the time when Airbnb was launched, it was an iPhone. Booking.com is Windows 95, Airbnb is the iPhone. You can see the gigantic gap that's been happening. And I think Airbnb is really the one company of all three that's really in the travel business, the travel and hospitality business. They own the guest experience end to end. They've processed the payments, which is not even something that Verbo is doing or keeps on doing, depending on the connection that you're having with Verbo. Booking.com is starting to deploy that because they need to catch up in the US. Airbnb is not a problem. They process, they own the guests. And that gives them a feeling that they're probably more guest-centric compared to other businesses that are invoicing the host. But that really, I think, is a bit unfair. They really are working more on iteration, having a great product, having a fantastic UX. That is definitely going to be a challenge. If you are addicted to Airbnb and saying that you are an Airbnb host rather than a short-term rental host, it's going to be very challenging for you to get to another support, to another product. And that's where third, middleman, property man, software may come in easy, but that's really up to you. So yeah, Verbo, I didn't say the equivalent, but when Verbo was launched, it was Windows XP. And that's really the kind of image that I have, a reliable, steady partner that really was acclaimed, but you don't hear about it much at one point.
Having a blast, gonna get it on the Boostly podcast. Boostly like Bruce Lee, cause it's so hard and the T is loose leaf. Making up those rhymes, don't write it, just do it loosely.